first addressing the conscious mind, the logic of it, to get the conscious mind on board, and then we'll go for the childhood memories and references and change those. So getting the conscious mind on board first using logic. One of the ways of doing that is remembering that we go through kind of stages of our lives, and it's a progress. So it's not like you have this and then you lose it and then you're stuck with whatever the next thing is. We are able to create different things, experience different things moving forward. So the good stuff we had in the past isn't the only good stuff there is, but the brain is creating that perception. So it's like, if you think about, like, if you go to a concert or something of a music artist or band that you enjoy, you go there, it's so much fun, but you don't expect to stay there forever, and that's all you'll ever experience. You go, well, that was fun, next. And that's the way to see life. That was fabulous, had such fun with that, or that was so wonderful. What's next? And what good things can come in the future? So the fact that you were so happy and everything was fine before doesn't mean that that was the only option. So you either have to go back in time to that, or you never get to experience happiness. Does that make sense so far?
Right, yeah.
Very good. So let's look at when you said, if I could only go back in time to that time when I was free and happy and secure, and my brain wasn't doing this to me. At what point, when did it start? Or when did you notice that your brain was doing something different?
I feel like maybe 2-3 years ago.
Okay, so about 2 or 3 years ago. And what happened at around that time?
Well, the pandemic for sure happened. And then I just started getting symptoms, bodies, health symptoms.
Okay, very good. So there was the pandemic, and what else was happening in your life at that time, which may not seem related, but any changes apart from the pandemic? Anything else going on?
My youngest son did break out in a bad eczema rash, and we found out later that it was mold in our house that was causing it. So we had to do a massive, pretty much like a renovation of our home, while dealing with my son being so uncomfortable and oozing all over his body with like all the ashes, the rashes and stuff.
Right. Okay. So that sounds very traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, and that was about the same time?
I would say.
Okay. And so your son got ill, and then you discovered that there was this mold thing. And how was your experience of all of that at that time? Obviously, it's stressful, it's not pleasant in that, but any particular meaning that you gave to it, or that you saw in it, any particular emotions around that time?
I would say fear, stress, emotion, maybe like anger, hopelessness, things like that.
Okay, very good. Well done. And so let's take the fear first of all. What was the fear about? What were you fearful of?
If he would ever heal from it. And because we have a history with my husband where I also cared for him when he had eczema breakouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so you're worried about if he would ever heal from it. And as you think about that time now, so you had the fear, the anger, the hopelessness, all of that, you've got that now. Can you remember that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Good job. And now what's the first thing that pops into your mind from childhood? And it may not appear to make any sense. It may be completely random.
Fear, hopelessness, anger. I feel like my mom lashing out.
Yes. Okay. Very good. And so when your mom would lash out, what was that experience like for you when you were a child? What feelings were there?
Fear, anger, maybe like some resentment and hopelessness, like she'll never change.
Very good. Very good. That makes perfect sense. And do you have a sort of one specific memory of your mum doing that, that can represent all of them?
I do. It's in adulthood though.
Okay. And so do you have any memories from childhood of her doing that? And if not, that's okay. We just want to make sure there aren't any earlier ones there.
I don't know if they're memories, but I can imagine that she is yelling and screaming at the younger me.
Good. That's what we want. Yeah. And so for everybody else as well, we always want to go for childhood, where possible. And if you don't have anything that comes to mind from childhood, that's okay. You can just go with the earliest one that you can remember, and then your brain will update earlier ones automatically, and you may not even remember them, or you may suddenly have a childhood memory come to mind, and then you can address that. But we always want to go for the childhood ones as far as possible, the earliest ones possible, because those are the roots that everything else, including adulthood, is built on. So, so let's take that one that you've got, or that imagining that you have, that you can imagine what it was like. So, and then so we've got that on one side. So now on the other hand, remind me of your favorite color.
Like a glittery gold.
Oh, that's right. Very nice. Okay, so we've got the gold, and then have you got a subject?
Yes.
Very good. So for those who are new, that'll be person, animal, place, or activity that you love with no negative attachments. All right. So, and then before we go into that, I also want to ask you, do you have a memory from your childhood that is wonderful? Preferably with your mum. If you have one, if you don't, that's okay. Just a memory where you can feel that freedom and that happiness.
I I don't have one with my mom.
Okay. Do you have one with even without your mum?
I mean, would you say that the new ones that I've been practicing would be one, or no? Are you talking more like?
Yep, we can use one of those.
Okay.
Something that represents that freedom and happiness that you want to feel new.
Okay. So one that I've been rewriting and practicing is her like spinning me around and telling me how that glow, that light in my body is what keeps me extremely healthy, and nothing, no illness, no disease can penetrate through.
Good job. All right. So we'll use that as well. Okay. So let's start. So I want to take a deep breath. Close your. Oh, in fact, I'm so sorry, but before we do, just give me an age for that memory. That sort of memory of your mum lashing out.
Maybe like 5.
5 years old. Very good. Okay. So now take a deep breath. Close your eyes. And I want you to start by thinking of that beautiful gold color, that beautiful glittery gold surrounding you. So you're surrounded by that gorgeous color. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And you can feel the feeling of that beautiful glittery gold color. Good job. And now I want you to think of your subject, that person, animal, place, or activity that you love, and imagine holding them in your arms in a hug. You got that? Good job. Very good, Raquel. And now I want you to focus in on the feeling of love in your chest or solar plexus. Good job. And then imagine that feeling as a ball of light or energy. And imagine it spreading down to your toes, up to the top of your head, and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that light, that energy, that love. Good job. All right. So now press pause on that for a moment. And just very briefly, I want you to go to that memory or that representation of your mum lashing out at you at 5 years old. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And about how strong are the negative emotions? 0 to 10. So 0, I can't feel anything. 10, it's very strong.
Probably like 4, 5.
4 or 5. Very good. And now press pause on that. And let's go back to the glittery gold and hugging your subject. And you and your subject are surrounded by that gorgeous gold color. And you can feel the feeling of it. You got that? Very good. Good job. And now press pause on that. And let's go back to that memory when you were 5 years old, your mum lashing out, and the negative feelings were about a 4 or a 5. Where are they now?
I'd say maybe a 3, a 2.
Very good. So press pause on that. Let's go back to your gold color and your subject. And I want you to think of all the things you love about your subject. And if it's a person or an animal, think of if they've ever done anything funny. You got that? Good job. Press pause on that. Let's go back to the 5-year-old memory of your mum lashing out, and the negative emotions were a 2 or a 3. Where are they now?
Like a 0.
Good, very good. All right. So now we want to change that memory. So I want you to start by imagining what it would be. In fact, let's do this. I want you to imagine being surrounded, that little you is surrounded by a bubble, a protective bubble. And that protective bubble is also bouncy. So as your mum lashes out at you, it can't get through the bubble. It bounces back to her. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And can you imagine the surprised look on her face?
Yeah.
Good. And if you can add some humor, so much the better. The more humor one can add, the better, the more effective.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So she's surprised. And what happens in that moment is as that lashing out, whatever form that took, bounced back to her, she got to experience what that little you would experience. And she is completely taken aback because she had no idea it felt like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now she feels the effects of how she was treating you. And she's horrified. And you can see the realization in her face. And what does she do?
She apologizes.
Good, very good. And how does that little you feel when her mum apologizes to her?
She feels she feels good. But she also feels like, is this gonna last?
Very good. Good job, sweetheart. Okay. And so now we want to ask that little you, what would give her the surety, the security, and the the knowing that it would definitely last? What would reassure her that it's going to last? What needs to happen? And it can be anything at all. So you can use magic, it doesn't matter. But what does she need to make sure that this lasts?
Maybe that her mom maybe that her mom is getting the support regularly that she needs.
Very good. Good job. And also, what about if her mum was a different type of person?
Mm-hmm.
If your mum had grown up differently, had been treated with love and kindness and compassion, had everything she needed, and imagine the kind of woman she would have grown into: calm, peaceful, compassionate, confident, kind, relaxed, healthy, all of those things. And then imagine the kind of mother that kind of woman would have made. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So now I want you to see if to give that little you a magic wand and she magics her mother. She puts magic spell on her mother that changes her mother's background, past, childhood, everything. And you can see the sparkles as the magic is working.
Mhm.
You imagine that? Very good. And so can you see a change in your mother's face now?
Yeah.
Good. So you can see that new person, that different person.
Mhm.
Very good. And now how does that little you feel?
Relieved and hopeful.
Good. Very good. And does that little you now feel it's safe to allow your mum into the bubble?
Mhm.
Good. Very good. So allow her in, and what happens?
She hugs me, like she kneeled down and she hugs me and apologizes.
Good job. And how does that feel for the little you?
It feels nice.
Good. Very good. And does that little you now feel safe with her mother?
Hmm.
Does she believe her?
Yeah,
Good.
she's a little confused, but like she's going with it.
Good. Very good. And make sure that that little you knows that she always has that magic wand, and she always has the bubble, that protective bubble. So she can at any time protect herself.
Hmm.
So she's always safe. So there's that. Now let's go to your mum. I want you to think about when you were born, when you were first born, how did your mother feel?
In reality,
In reality, well, let's see, whatever comes. So if you've got new memories, if those are the first ones that come, that's great. If it's the old memories that come, then whatever that is. So
oh,
whatever comes.
she felt happy.
Good. She felt happy and very good. And how, so I want you to imagine you've been born, she's holding you. And what is that scene? What's the feeling in that scene?
Feelings of love and happiness.
Good, very good. And then moving forward, how how physically affectionate was your mum?
Uh,
Again, the first memories that come to mind. So whether those are new or old.
she I believe she was physically affectionate.
Good. And does that little you feel safe?
Um Interestingly, no.
Good. Interesting. Yes, very good. And so what is it that makes that little you not feel safe?
Um, I think it's just the experiences of her. Just she was a very high stressful woman and very up and down, screaming all the time.
Okay, very good. So let's change that. So I want you to imagine if instead of being stressed and up and down and screaming all the time, she would be very excitable. So she would get excited about stuff and enthusiastic about stuff. So you've still got that high energy every now and then, but it's a positive energy. So instead of screaming, she would laugh and sing, and so it was a joyful thing. Can you imagine that?
Hmm.
Very good. And you would join in. So she would laugh and you would laugh, and the two of you would laugh till the tears roll down your cheeks. Got that? Good job. And you would sing together. So we want to take all of the memories, all the references of her screaming, and turn it into singing and laughing. Can you imagine that?
So, as I'm doing that, excuse me, I'm seeing her original face of like when she would yell, when she would scream, she was always angry.
Okay. And so let's look at that face. So the anger on her face, and see if you can use the magic wand to change her face to happy instead. Laughing. You got that? Good. Very good. And another thing we can do here is, do you know anybody who is very joyful and enthusiastic and happy and that you feel safe with? And it doesn't even need to be a real person. It could be or anybody you know. It could be a celebrity, or it could even be a fictional character.
Yeah.
Good. And someone who's calm and has qualities that you would have liked your mother to have. Got someone? Very good. I want you to imagine your mother's standing in front of you. And then I want you to put that other person, the ideal person, in front of your mother. So your mother is behind that person. You got that? Very good. And now I want you to imagine your mother coming through that person. So, and as she comes through that person, she automatically takes on all the qualities of them. She learns how to be like that. And as she comes through them and you start to see her coming through, can you see the expression on her face? And what is that expression?
She's like relaxed and just calm.
Very good. Good job. And can you now imagine what it would have been like to grow up with that version of your mother? Good. Very good. And how does that feel?
It feels good. It feels supportive and loved.
Good. Very good. All right. So now let's, so you can open your eyes. And how do you feel right now?
Good.
Good. All right. So now I want you to think back to that time when you were happy and free, and then how you felt about wishing you could go back there. And how do you feel now? Do you still feel the same? Do you feel different?
I feel I don't think it's as strong. And I feel like it's I will get back there.
Good, good. Okay, so now what I want you to do moving forward is whenever that thought occurs to you, whenever those thoughts or feelings of, I wish I could go back there before this happened, as that comes up, I want you to play that new memory with your mom. So that new version of your mom, see her face smiling, let her, have her hug you. And so what you're doing there is redirecting your brain to the new reference, the new proof that you are safe and you are happy and you are free.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that feeling of freedom and happiness is based on feeling safe. It's feeling unsafe that has taken that away, right? And the feeling of being safe is coming from your childhood, or the feeling of being unsafe is coming from your childhood. So we need to create that strong foundation of being safe in your childhood, because that's what we then bring with us into adulthood. We bring it with us. We can't get it from outside of ourselves, but we have to get it from our parents in the first place.
Okay.